let me rephrase that. These are very optimistic white-backed vultures. And after, where are we now? 4 days at least, I think, since Alex saw these lion kill the buffalo. I'm losing track. Okay. Starling and the roller. Also a little bit puffed up. Oh, that's not good. Excuse me. Yeah, it's windy. Just picked up something in the road. That's actually windy. Oh, Zanellis comes from this vehicle, and actually pulled the mounting out. That's the sway bar. I guess it's just all the articulation that hangs the axle. It's one of the sway bar mountings. There's normally a rubber cup in here, and then the sway bar fits through there. That actually holds, it's just underneath the plate that holds the petrol tank. So we've got some work to do perhaps a bit later, but we've lost one of the bolts. That's interesting. Although the sway bar isn't that vital to the kind of driving that we're doing. But basically what it does is it keeps the axle, and it just keeps the rear of the vehicle in line, especially I suppose at speeds on highways more than the amount of driving that we do. Luckily the lion didn't see me get out of the car. If they're still here. Big if. Vulture is a hooded vulture, and that means that maybe they're still on the ground, because there's something's been dragged across the road. A lot of hyena tracks. My guess is that there you go, piece of the rib cage, the drag marks on the road here. So hyena have gotten to it overnight. There's a piece of vertebra and rib cage. This just looks like a dead twig. No, I can't see that. I'm looking for it on the monitor. But that was obviously dragged across the road. It must have been a lot bigger than that at the time because of the drag marks. And hyena have had quite a bit of it. I'm surprised there isn't a vulture on it. There's nothing nearby. And here's some more rib bones. There is a vulture feeding inside. A lot of hyena tracks. I think these cats might have moved on, actually. Rib cage just ahead. It displaced the one that was there. 3 of them trying to fit on one little dead twig. So already this carcass is starting to be spread out a little bit. I guess a hyena must have, there are a lot of hyena tracks on the road. The hyena must have been able to get in here last night because quite clearly I think the lion have left the scene of the crime. So squeeze in here a little bit, maybe just poke our nose in and have a look. There's a little bit too close. A little grotesque, I guess, in a sense. But, those lumbar vertebrae and the ribs. Okay. In time there won't be any sign of kill here, other than maybe a few bones lying around that'll get bleached by the sun, and much the same way as the areas where we've seen buffalo kills before here on Zuma. We go past them, I look at the bones, some of the bones that were lying around, and I can remember those kills vividly. Very testiculars. Two little testiculars in this buffalo thorn. Okay, I'm going to ride up Boyatela Access Road a little way. There's been elephant that's come past here too. Big elephant tracks in the road. But he must have been here yesterday because all the hyena tracks are on top of this elephant's tracks. He was heading sort of northwest, heading up the access road away from Boyatela. Interesting to see where the boys went now, because they have, it would seem that they've finally left this location. My guess is that they probably went up towards the big dam at Buffelshoek, on the corner of Buffelshoek. And that might have been why we heard monkeys shouting there this morning. I thought perhaps there might have been a leopard up there, but my guess is that, judging by the intensity and the type of shouting the monkeys, there were only two monkeys calling really. And monkeys are always in a fairly large troop, well not always, but generally. And they tend to be a lot more aggressive, a lot more vocal when it comes to a leopard as opposed to lion. Lion are not that much of a threat to monkeys. It's kind of difficult for lion to get hold of a monkey. But monkeys will still throw verbal abuse at them. And the cats didn't come up this way, so they might have headed up Sandy Patch North going to Buffelshoek Cut Line. So I think we should go that way. The vultures, the reason why they're still hanging around, although there's not really that much left, is because of this mist. And Graham's just letting me know that Twitter's working a bit slow this morning. Maybe you want to send things. If you have any questions, send them to questions@wildearth.tv. .tv, not .com. If Twitter's not too functional this morning. So what was I saying? I forgot.
The vultures in the mist.
Oh, the vultures in the mist. Thank you. I've got a brain like a sieve. And I'll get back to that shortly. While a question comes in. Good morning, Sharon. Sharon is in Memphis, Tennessee. Walking in Memphis. Walking with my feet 10 feet off a beel. So Memphis, Sharon. Wanting to know if there's any jackal in the area. Certainly hyena that have come around. No jackal here in this immediate vicinity, to my knowledge. Not to say that they can't be here. We have seen some jackal up on the airstrip at Arathusa, and I think maybe we can try and get there at some stage. The only time that I've been there, it's been quite sunny, and jackal during the day will invariably be under the shade somewhere, sleeping up for the day. They do occupy open areas. They need open areas. The black-backed jackal and the side-striped jackal are the two types of jackal we get here. And well, it seems that the side-striped jackal is able to handle this kind of terrain and this kind of habitat a little bit better than the black-backed jackals. Funnily enough, we saw a side-striped jackal on the way into work this morning on our morning commute. We also saw another wonderful thing. We saw a civet, and the sun had already come up. Well, the sun was up, but the mist rolling in. We saw a civet that was hassling a pair of crowned plover coming in through Magnoleti. We got a really nice view of it. Not very often you get to see that in daylight. But this is the kind of weather that you're likely to see nocturnal animals not going to bed too early. Might still be about. Brenda in Louisiana. Hello. That's what I was trying to get at earlier when I started talking about vultures in the mist and why they are still hanging around. Thanks for the question, Brenda. A good question. And the reason primarily is with wet feathers. They've probably got quite wet and damp feathers at the moment from precipitation overnight from the dew. And now with this mist, the energy that it's going to take to fly anywhere else right now is probably, or it's just going to take too much energy. And if they wait a little while, I think this is lifting. I think that the sun's going to burn it open by the time we're at the end of drive. And once the sun comes out and thermals start picking up with the thermal activity of the ground warming up, they'll be able to move off and find things a little bit further on. Morning, boys. 3 little boys. Why are the rollers complaining? There are rollers gathered. Oh, because one roller's got something that the other roller wants. Like a beetle or something. Yeah, it's going over. I think it might be a youngster, the way it's flying. Yeah, it wants. And now, it's gone. Don't know if you managed to follow it today. Okay, so the one adult flew into that little, I think it's a little piece of torchwood. And this is a juvenile that flew across now, that's sitting up there. The adult looked like a beetle in its beak. And the youngster was doing the usual youngster thing. squawking with its mouth open, wanting food, even though it's flying and quite capable of catching things itself. Oh gosh, look at that. We've been asked before about tortoises and predators. This looks like the hyena tracks here. There's a tortoise that has been eaten. Poor child. It actually had I can't see. It actually had the side of its shell crushed, chewed open, and its limbs chewed. That was a henchback tortoise. There's a scarab beetle entering on the other side. There's a few flies, no doubt. Even some of the carrion beetles will find it during the day. Very strange. Not often you see that, actually. Somebody asked about tortoise predation. What can eat them? Oh, jackal, hyena, lion, leopard. If they can get their mouth around it. That's a little sad. Life and death in the African savannah, that's what it's all about, really. We often, in fact most of the time, end of the time, we drive around and we have actually some wonderful moments with some of Africa's wonderful wildlife. But we must never forget the reality of it all, and that is that things have to be eaten. Everything that lives and moves and grows has to be eaten at some point. It's all got to be returned to the soil as food for everything else that has to live and grow, plant and animal alike. Not always easy coming to terms with things, especially when they, I don't know, when they are animals, or when sometimes some things are harder to bear than others. And every thing just as much right or just as much needs just as much attention as it. The bigger things, the big creatures, into heartstrings a little bit more than normal. So this is a very big dam I was talking about. We do sort of pick up signal issues here. We can't get to the water. We're not really allowed onto the property, but we can stop and have a look. I can see fish eagles. Longer hearing any monkeys, but that, as I said, it was at least an hour ago we came through the gate. Come here. Harder to follow a wasp than it is a bird.
Way harder.
I think because there's another one. They're spending a lot of time around that little tunnel there, which was originally a ventilation hole, and it's possible that I wish I could. I was hoping she would land and you could see her. These wasps are about 2 inches long. They're big, bright, metallic blue, metallic black. Spider hunting wasps. And one of their favorite spiders is the big baboon spider, which is, I guess, our equivalent of our tarantula, or rather, the tarantula. And no sign of those Birmingham boys up as well. So let's move east. There's another spider wasp. They sting a spider, they paralyze it, and they drag it off to their pre-dug burrow. They lay an egg on it and they cover it up in the burrow. And the spider becomes food for their larvae, for their baby. Maternal care, or the maternal instinct in the wasp is strong. Wasps actually quite, and they're very interesting creatures. But for some of the parasitic wasps that hunt prey, that only puts their prey to sleep. It doesn't kill their prey. It renders them immobile. So I hope, Georgia, I hear there's some fires in us at the moment, the worst in 30 years or something. Although I didn't pick up where those fires are. Just bad news about the fires in Australia. The rutting season of impala starts towards the end of April. I guess you could say our fall, our autumn, going into early winter. End of April going into May. And at the time that the rutting season starts, all the males within the immediate area, all the bachelors within the bachelor herds, have had to have sorted out their hierarchy, because it will be disrupted somewhat with the acquisition of new males that are coming in, youngsters that have been that are leaving the family groups or the breeding herds or the harems, and with males coming of age and wanting to challenge older rams. Between now and then there's going to be a lot of practice sparring, there's going to be a lot of posturing and a lot of work to sort out that hierarchy, so that when the rut does start, the rams are going to know where they stand with each other, and it'll be fairly easy for the dominant ram to take charge of a herd at first. And then subsequently he loses condition within the first 2 weeks of the rut, and other rams will take over, and these young rams that have been pushed out and are now part of these bachelor herds, they're going to be trying to get back to the family herd, pushed out of the breeding herds. They're going to be trying to get back to their mothers and the families, and dominant rams will be chasing them away again. So there's a lot of work for a dominant ram to do in the coming months. And fortunately he's going to be able to build up a lot of strength, and he's going to be able to build up his fitness over the next couple of months, so that when it does happen he can take charge for a while. But it's such hard work that within a couple of weeks he loses condition, because he spends his days chasing females, mating with females, but also chasing bachelors away, especially the youngsters, because where he's chasing youngsters on one side of the herd, there are going to be youngsters coming in on the other side of the herd, and he doesn't get time to eat, he doesn't get time to do much other than chase either males away or keep the females confined. The juvenile fish eagle, I think. Might be the one that we've seen at Juma Waterhole. That's it. I guess we could call that a sub-adult. Starting to get its adult colors. That's probably about 7 or 8 years old. Franklin complaining. There's a dam just on the other side of the fish eagle on Biffle's Hook. There's a little dam called Tambuti Pan. And previous offspring of Karula have spent a lot of time here, between here and Gowrie Dam, Juma Waterhole. Franklin's complaining bitterly. I don't think it's because of the fish eagles. There might have been something at that dam. Speaking of Gowrie Dam or Juma Waterhole, let's take a ride down Mvubu Road towards the dam. Dave in Toronto. Morning, Dave. Middle of the night for you in Toronto, no doubt. No hypoxis. Used to be hypoxis growing here. What are some of the rarer birds that we expect to see, or we would like to see, or rarer birds that occur here at Juma? And have I ever seen a Cory bustard? So, second question is easy enough. I have seen Cory bustard, but we're not going to see a Cory bustard here at Juma. The biggest bustards that we have are the black-bellied bustard and the red or the buff-crested bustard, or Korhan. Cory bustards require fairly large open grassland, much the same as the secretary bird. Or Stanley's bustard is another one. They are very big. In fact, the Cory bustard, I think, is the largest flighted bird in the world, if I'm not mistaken. Huge. But of course, I've seen a Cory bustard in other parts of Africa. Some of the rarer birds that we get here that are special. Well, I suppose there would be a variety. I'd have to sort of think through the bird book, and I guess you could say there are two categories of birds that occur here that we see very seldom, that we don't see very often because they're either very shy or because of their skulking nature, that they tend to spend a lot of time in thick bush. All those birds that are rather rare, that might occur here, that we hardly ever see. Things like a Narina trogon, which would probably be pygmy kingfisher, which we saw once a few days ago, maybe last week sometime. Martial eagle is one of them. Some of the smaller raptors, the kestrels and falcons. Up in here, dwarf mongoose shouting it up. Grass is very long here, we're not going to see them. Tall panican grasses. What other birds? some of the bush shrikes, which are very pretty. I haven't heard the gorgeous bush shrike. They do tend to live on more permanent rivers, so probably down on the sand in the Sabi River. It's probably better riparian habitat for the gorgeous bush shrike, but we do get the orange-breasted bush shrike. We hear it fairly often. We don't get to see it very often. Same with the grey-headed bush shrike. There is also a member of the shrike family are the chagras, the brown-crowned and black-crowned chagras. We hear them a lot. We don't get to see them. I know I've had, I think it's a brown-crowned chagra that I need to find for Sharon in Austria. That's not, it's a beautiful call. Owls. Some of the owls, like the Scops owl and the barred owl and the wood owl, the owls that we hear sometimes, but we hardly ever get to see them. We, I suppose, get to see pearl-spotted owl every now and then, and if we're lucky, the giant eagle owl and the spotted eagle owl. But yes, they wouldn't call them rare birds, I just call them birds that we don't see very often. And then, of course, there are migrants, and there are a couple of waders and things that are quite rare. If we're going into the waders, a different type of bird entirely, they tend to be some of the longest distant migrants of some of the waders. The greenshank and the ruff and the reeve. I think the ruff and the reeve are the only birds that, it's the only bird in the country, in the world that different name depending on the sex. The male is a ruff and the female is a reeve. Think of others if I can as we're driving along. Soup. News from FC via Vim is that it looks like the hashtag Safari Live Twitter feed is down. So I think we're not getting anything in on Twitter this morning. Hashtag Safari Live. Somehow it has ceased to be. Oh, you had to fly away, didn't you? The redback shrike. Carol Ann, Rapid City, asking if we have brown-headed parrot, and we see brown-headed parrot. I guess that's another one, Carol Ann. There's another bird, David. We hear the brown-headed parrots quite often. They're quite shy, but fortunately their screech is unmistakable and quite loud. So if I hear one, we'll try our best to get to see it. They are social birds, so they're normally in little groups, 2s and 3s or 4 or 5. Interesting. Now, there was a leopard here last night. wonder where it went. I think we'll just have a quick look at the Juma waterhole. Hello, hippo. Good town. Very peaceful here, Juma Waterhole, Gari Dam, Juma Dam. What do we do? Do we go back? Do we go forward? Where do we go? Central Road. That sounds like Twitter's working maybe. Julian. See if this elephant is still around. It's already left the road. And leopard tracks. Come on, sunshine. Moss in Kentucky. Have I ever seen an African wild ass? Wild donkeys of Africa? Well, up in Kenya in East Africa, we call them punda. And yes, there are a lot of donkeys up there. Wow. But I think maybe you're thinking of talking about another equine. Bring out, next time I stop, bring out my mammal book. If you're referring to the same animal, or the donkey, or whether the African wild ass is a different animal. According to the radio, Ephraim is just here off to our right somewhere following leopard tracks, which must be the same leopard we saw, or the tracks that we saw coming this way from the waterhole, Gary Dam, which I'm guessing is the same leopard that was seen last night. And judging by the size of the tracks, it could very well be Mvula. So Ephraim is saying that it's down here on Nyala South, going into the Donga, into the riverbed. Continue with Central Road all the way up to the Katla, or Drakensberg at least. Franklin shouting on Nyala North. This means a cat could have come through here this morning. Somebody posted a picture of Mvula and quarantine in this area. Oh, from Ephraim. Well, that's probably this Ephraim that's out there at the moment. Now I'm listening there. Franklin's complaining on Nyala Road North. It's not a great signal. So that picture goes somewhere east of Buffelshoek Dam. Well, we're going to be coming around that way shortly. Bill, good morning, Bill. Southgate in Michigan. Gets pretty cold in Southgate at the moment, because I just know that Michigan, Illinois, those Midwest areas can be pretty cold this time of the year. Bill's asking if it would be dangerous if a person walked along these roadways at night. Well, pretty much so, Bill. Even for experienced guides, even for people who spend a lot of time walking around the bush, it's it's suicide walking around at night. We don't have nocturnal vision. It's all very well that you might be walking with flashlights and things, but unfortunately the predators that see us during the day see us somewhat differently at night because we're so vulnerable at night. And I guess as humans we would be stumbling around a little bit in the dark, and just our posture and our gait and everything about the way we might be walking would be might as well paint a big target on your back. But what makes it dangerous is that we can't really see what we're doing, and you don't want to be walking into buffalo or elephant, let alone the predator. There's just things that you don't want to walk into at night. Now, I have done so. There have been times in my past where I've had to do things like that, but only in emergencies. There was a time once in my 20s when my Land Rover got stuck in the middle of nowhere. It was in the middle of the night. Nobody was on the radio. I couldn't raise anybody. It was long before cell phones were even a pipe dream. And I ended up having to walk back to camp, and it was pouring with rain, it was lightning, and the only thing that was lighting my way was actually the flashes of lightning. Although it was full moon, wasn't getting much light out of the moon. There was a huge thunderstorm all night. But walking at night is just not a recommended thing. It's bad enough during the day for people who don't know what they're doing. You're already a target during the day. Your risk just trebles or increases exponentially at night. I have done night walks around camps just to see some of the nocturnal creatures, things that are not likely to be disturbed by light, mostly insects and spiders and some of the smaller creatures, bush babies. But I wouldn't really go out on foot at night at all. I think we have some more weather coming. Ants are building mounds, termites are building chimneys. Now, what do we do? It's getting dark in the south again. 3 guesses what bird that's from. Texans just found the kahumas up on Buffles up. Kahumas. Yeah, it's a lilac-breasted roller feather. I'm very lucky. The history of lilac-breasted roller feathers like this. The 19th century, when the so-called Great Trek was happening, the Oxwagon convoys that came up from the Cape, especially going up to the gold rush up in the Highveld, travelling across vast distances of the Karoo and places like that. The children would make toys out of animal bones, and when it came to growing up a little bit, and sometimes youngsters would fall in love, and a guy would give a lilac-breasted roller feather to his betrothed, almost as an engagement gift, almost like an engagement ring. And that's why the name of the bird in Afrikaans is called a tropant, because a tropant is an engagement ring. It's a So, where were we? I was answering a question, I think, before I got disturbed by a feather. And the question was... I'll think of it. Sarah in California. That's what it was. Sarah in California. I think it's time to get out my mammal book. As soon as we get a nice long view down Cheetah Cut Line. Do we have any skunks or similar type animals? We do indeed. We actually have not quite skunks, but similar. I mean, we have the striped polecat, and we have an animal known as the zorilla. They are skunk-like. Oh, there he is, that broad-tailed paradise wider. Look at him. Ladies have just flown away. He's still picking up some grass seed on the side of the road. Don't get my head in the way. Mammals, where's the mammals? Where's he gone?
He's still there, just in the distance.
A lot of females. Oh, there he is, landing now, going into the grasses. Stunning bird, grows his tail for the mating season. The mustelids. What is that? Is that a vehicle down there?
Yeah, so... can you just look at the lens and blow out that bug that's lurking there?
Yeah.
Your top left corner, you'll see it lurking.
There?
Yeah. He's just walking around just to give it a bit of a...
Yeah, but I don't want to smudge it against the lens.
Yeah, there you go.
It's an aphid.
Ah.
Aphids are very interesting creatures. They're able to reproduce parthenogenetically, and they are such incredible, well, they're such efficient reproducers that when an aphid is giving birth to her daughter's already pregnant with her daughter. So there's sort of, it's like those Russian dolls. An aphid inside an aphid inside an aphid. Mongoose, mongoose, mongoose. Then we get to the four-toed dog mongooses. Then we're getting to hyenas. Hyenidae, and then the viverids, the genet, and civet, and cats. Then we get to cats and aardvark. So where are the other? Ah, there we go. That is the Zarilla, and this is the striped polecat. Well, that's the Libyan striped weasel, way up North Africa. But they are mustelids, which I'm sure, I think if I'm not mistaken, the American skunk is also a mustelid. As opposed to the viverids, which are the mongoose. But those are our sort of skunk equivalents in Africa. And then of course there's the honey badger. The little rattle. Oh wait, while we're at it, and I'm just waiting, there was a car down the road. And we have the wild ass. No. Okay, so different to the sort of the donkey that we get in Africa. I haven't seen the wild ass. Not sure who it was that asked that question, but only way up in Ethiopia, Somalia. You don't get those anywhere else other than a couple of spots up on the Horn of Africa. I suppose the donkeys and the wild donkeys that I see are probably just normal donkeys that have been brought to Africa. They're more feral than anything else. Going back to the skunks and the Zarilla and the striped polecat, I've never seen a live individual. I've seen sometimes driving home at night up in the Timbavati, something dash across the road in the distance, but never been able to see it very well at all. Oh, excuse me again. No, plug this. It's a lot easier. My day for feathers. This is an interesting feather. This is a very interesting feather. This is from an owl, and it looks like it was possibly a juvenile, maybe spotted eagle owl. I'm not sure. It's a bit small for a giant eagle owl. But what makes it so interesting, I don't know if you can see this leading edge. Now this is the left wing feather. This feather would be one of the leading edge feathers on the tip of the wing. And what's interesting about owl feathers is if you look at the actual leading edge of the feather, it's almost comb-like. It's not knitted as tight as all other bird feathers are. That needs to create quite a tight seal in the top of the wing to help with, almost like an airplane's ailerons, help with lift and flight. But it's that toothed sort of comb-like structure at that part of the feather, and as well as, I don't know if you can pick up the texture of this feather on camera, but it's a furry feather. It's a very, very soft, very, very furry feather, and the reason for that is that it gives owls silent flight at night. Most other large birds, any of the eagles and the vultures, when they're flying, even when they're soaring, there's an audible whistle or hum from their wings as the feathers vibrate through the air. But for owls, they're gifted with silent flight, and it's that little comb-like structure and the furry texture to the feather that gives an owl the ability to swoop down on unsuspecting little rodents. who are pretty sensitive with their hearing as it is. So today's my day for feathers. My Land Rover can wear that owl feather. Time to replace broken porcupine quill with the feather. Maybe Wendy can wear it. Warming up a bit. Okay. GJ in SoCal, Southern California. Wonder where you are in SoCal, GJ. Why do termites build chimneys in weather, for weather coming? Well, a couple of reasons. One of the reasons is as ventilation shafts, so that the warm air that is being produced or that's being created by the termite activity, by the fungus gardens, the warm air that is generated by the colony can exit the colony, and then other chimneys, other ventilation holes that suck fresh air in, and that's kind of it's air conditioning. It's quite efficient and very effective air conditioning. But also because if there is going to be a thunderstorm and if there's going to be weather, the termites want to release their reproductive castes, the winged termites that need to fly, and it's almost impossible for them to fly from the flat ground. They need a slight launching pad. Even a small chimney is good enough. Different termite species build different types of chimneys. There's a very, very small termite that builds, it's sort of maybe a little bit thicker than a matchstick. It's a little tunnel with a clay tube that stands probably about 2 or 3 inches high, very, very delicate, but it's strong enough that the winged termites can climb up onto the top of that little chimney and then lift off and fly away. And the reason why it happens around rains is because they need the first of all, they need the weather phenomenon to trigger the release of reproductors. We've already seen a couple of hatchings of termites. Well, not really hatchings, emerging of termites, but they all do it at different times of the year, and they all need to do it together because so many things eat the termites. It's probably one of the highest protein insects that emerge in such numbers, and because they're eaten by so many things, they have to be produced in such numbers to ensure at least a large number of them get to meet up with a mate and burrow underground. And they need the rain, they need the wet weather to be able to get underground as soon as they can, so they don't get eaten by reptiles. A couple of little bee eaters they've flown. Okay. So where in Southern California, GJ? Golf Juliet. I spent time in Aptos, just south of Monterey Bay, or rather south of Santa Cruz, just north of Monterey itself, on Monterey Bay. I think it was Brenda, if I'm not mistaken, who was a docent at Año Nuevo, the beach just near Half Moon Bay, I think it is, just north of Santa Cruz, where all the elephant seals accumulate. I remember going there. A little bit of a battle going on up in the sky. We've had the sun trying to come out, but we've also had some heavy cloud moving in from the south, so there might even be rain. I'm looking at the southwestern part of the Sabi Sand from this vantage point that we've got, and it's looking pretty dark and rainy down there. So I'm thinking that maybe places like Leopard Hills, Ulusaba, Idube and Inyati and Dulini, those camps down in the southwest of us, I'm thinking they might be under drizzle right now. Might not burn open, might not clear up. There we go, there's the Chagra calling. Hello Brian, in Toronto. Oops. It's my protein shake I'm drinking. I'm hungry, thirsty, hungry. Killed two birds with one stone. Food and liquid all in one. But I'm dripping, so I'm making a mess. Brian in Toronto, are there any sable or roan antelope? Well, no. It's not really sable habitat, this. I guess there might have been in the past. The habitat has changed over the decades. And I'm sure there might have been in the past. But further north in Kruger is where one will find roan and sable. And there are a lot of, just west of Kruger, there are a lot of private game ranches that breed mostly sable, not so much roan. Radio blaring. Talking about Ingwe, a couple of guys are looking at leopard tracks. Listening to the radio updates from around the Sabi Sand. Sounds like a couple of guys looking for different leopards around. Well, there's Ephraim that's looking around Nyala Road South, and there are a couple of guys on Torchwood looking for leopard. But so far only the Kahuma's up on Buffelshoek. Look at all these heliotropes. It's like a little carpet of heliotropium interspersed with the blue comelinas. There's a bit of wild foxglove coming up. You can see the odd little pink flower, which is a wild foxglove, but most of this white is all heliotropium, which is also known as the row of stars, or row of stars, yeah. Here's a wild foxglove. You get a darker pink variety that's known as, that's a sesamosum. Sorry, take me away from the flower. Hello, Janine. Janine's in Washington. I wonder if that's Washington State or Washington DC. Janine wants to know if there have been any cheetah sightings of late nearby. As far as I know, they have. Up on Buffelshoek, there've been 2 cheetah that have been seen up there occasionally, and I've been hoping that they'd come our way. They're not really any good cheetah habitat, except for quarantine area and going up onto Zoe's Road where we have seen cheetah before. They're areas where cheetah will cross through, not areas where cheetah will stay. Cheetah really don't stay still for very long. They're constantly on the move. They have very large areas that they roam in, and they, throughout the areas that they live in, they have particular open areas where they will hunt and will use for hunting. So although we might even have cheetah that move through a place like this, this is an ideal habitat for them to hunt. Not to say that they won't, because I've seen cheetah hunting in this kind of habitat, because being a predator, they are opportunists. Joni in Arizona. What is the dominant grass species? Well, gosh, depends. Different soil types have different grass types. But I'd say, if you know your grasses, the Eragrostis family of grasses, the love grasses. Eragrostis comes from the Greek words eros and grastis, which are the love grasses. And the panicums, which are the highly palatable grass. You get the Rhodes grasses on the termite mounds. As you can see, this termite mound, there's a very specific grass, this grass that only grows on termite mounds. Often you get a lemon smell to it, not quite lemongrass. So depending on whether it's a sand felt or it's clay, if it's sour felt or sweet felt, different grasses dominate different soil types, and different grasses have different requirements. And there's a Demida triandra we just passed, which is not a very palatable grass. There's some grasses that favor disturbed areas, they tend to be have a low palatability. They're not very. We approach Buffelshoek Dam. Morning, Bob. Bob is in Virginia Beach. The lack of antelope, is it because of the full moon or is it because of the weather? I think it's because of the weather, Bob. Not I think, but yeah. It's a weather thing. Changes in atmospheric pressure that have animals doing different things. Right. Go north. We'll have to come across something sooner or later. But judging by the chatter on the radio, seems to be quite widespread, this lack of animal activity. I suppose, Bob, could have something to do with the full moon. The fact that things are a lot more active at times of full moon, because even some of the diurnal animals that will be active during night on a full moon. I've seen cheetah hunting on a full moon. Wild dog get pretty active during the night on a full moon. Of course, the weather and the moon is no coincidence. It's a given that full moons and new moons do have higher, or there's a higher chance of weather changes at full moon and new moon. Oops, sorry. See if a cheetah are walking up or down, cheetah cut line or Buffels of Cutline. If we visit Buffels of Cutline often enough, we might catch cheetah there one day. They do move along that road. There are some big open areas on Buffel, which is where the cheetah do tend to spend a lot of time. What did I just see? Big tree stump. Sleeping tree stump. Dayton is Ohio, is it not? Pamela, I think it's Pamela. Dayton. Oh, made a mistake. Millie in Cleveland. Ah, Millie. I'm confused. Pamela in Dayton or Millie in Cleveland? That Millie. The Millie I know in Cleveland, I think. Okay, let's go with it again. Tell me. Somebody doesn't believe this is live. Millie in Cleveland saying Pamela in Dayton, the daughter, Millie's daughter, doesn't believe this is live. Well, how can I prove to you it's live? I can't give you a newspaper. I can show you the calendar of my clock. But yeah, ask a question. It reminds me I should switch this off. Put it on airplane. But there, 7:37 a.m. Tuesday the 6th of January. That's what it is on my phone. I remember often having these questions about people not really being Deborah in Arizona. Deborah, yeah. Arizona. How do we get our fuel? At the moment, I did a fuel run yesterday. We have a bunch of jerry cans and we head out to Hluvukani, which is the closest little village to us outside of Manyaleti. And it's in Hluvukani that we fill up. I filled up yesterday with all the jerry cans. And we're running at sort of virtually a jerry can a day for each vehicle. 20 litre cans. I've had mosquitoes biting my feet and they are itching. What do we got on the road? Nothing yet. In the past, I've actually seen cheetah right here a few times. There's a fire break that runs up into Buffelshoek, this road that we're going past now, that runs into a big open area. So I have had cheetah coming down from up there, from the north, as well as from the east, on Torchwood, using this road. And it's a matter of timing, being here when they're here or knowing that they're here. Unless somebody drives here, then we couldn't even know it. That's the elephant tracks crossing to the north here. I wonder if it's the same bull whose tracks I found earlier today. But I seem to lose track of where he went. And that could have been his. Bow tracks, tortoise tracks. Dark skies, look at that dark sky. Here we've got sunshine. And looking down to the south, look how dark that is over the Sabi sand. There's another lily just about to bloom. Take a chance, take my fleece off. Hot when the, what?
I say it's taking a chance.
Yeah. It's hot because the sun comes out, but it's, I don't think it's going to be out for very long. It's pouring with rain in the western sector of the Sabi sand. Looking quite wet down there. See, we will get an open gap shortly. Soon enough. Yeah, a good point, Brian. Only problem is we're in the northeastern corner. It's the only way we can go is south and west. But wow, weather's really closed in from going all south and west. There you can, if you zoom past that marula tree down the road, you can look into the rain in the distance, looking south deep into the Sabi sand. Yeah. Termite mound. Well, this is recently added to the old mound, sort of probably the remnants of the original colony. And Amanda in Alabama was asking about the soil. What is the soil around a termite mound like? Well, largely depends on the species of termite, but it also depends on the soil type itself. We're on quite sandy soils here, so fairly large grains of what we would suppose you could call a decomposed granite. And the soil is glued together by the byproduct of what termites do. And it's the radio interrupting me. And that sort of, it's like a clay type of substance that is used to glue the sand together, that gives it that appearance and makes it look like cement. And it is exceptionally durable. In fact, for many, many years, for decades in fact, termite mounds were, oh, there's a hypoxis. Termite mounds were broken up and used for tennis courts, clay courts. That is pretty. Is that yellow? Looks like hypoxis. I need to just get a quick photo of that. Scusi. Please be patient with me with flowers. On.
I'm switching between the blue and the yellow, or the violet and the yellow. No good.
Well, the flash just blows it out. And I can't see if I'm getting it focused or not, because it's such fine focus with this little macro thing that fits on the end, that moving in a millimeter each way takes it in and out of focus. But we'll see if I can get it, and if I can get to the few flowers that I've been photographing over the last few days. I still haven't taken them off the camera and started looking at what they are. Problem is that I leave my books here, and a day like yesterday when I was up at Manileti all day waiting for a mechanic who never arrived, I didn't have any of my books to be able to go through any of the flowers, but I'll try and do it today, because there've been now, I think there are at least 4 or 5 flowers that I'm not too sure about. This is the book that Janine was saying she left at home. Janine in Hoedspruit. Orchids, gladiola, Seraphyta. There we go. That is Hypoxis rigidula. one of these one of the hypoxis flowers. Oh, these are paintings, so it's a little bit difficult to see the paintings. You might find a photograph in one of my other books, but that is one of the hypoxis, and the hypoxis is actually also known as star lilies, but they're also the tuber, the bulb of the, it's not a bulb, it's like a tuber, potato-like. It's called wild potato, and it supposedly has numerous medicinal properties, although I'm not too sure which. I do remember when I was trying all sorts of things to delay the decline of my kidneys. I was trying a bunch of homeopathic things, and one of the things that I did try was a concoction made out of the wild potato, the hypoxis. But that's not a very common flower, not a common plant to find, especially if you don't see it unless it's flowering, because the leaves are thin and tall, like blades of grass, really. Unless they're flowering, I don't get to see them much. But a vivid bright yellow, really bright yellow. One thing I'm going to try in 2 days' time, when I come back from drive, or rather come back on drive in 2 days' time, I'm going to bring a thermometer, and with the termites opening their vent holes and opening their chimneys, and do an experiment that will be quite interesting, is to measure the temperature outside the mound, and then just drop the thermometer in a little bit with a piece of string. Because unfortunately you can't, all you'd have to do is really just hold your hand over the top and you can feel warm air coming out. But termites have to have a constant around about 37, 38 degrees Celsius, almost like our bodies. It's vital that they maintain that temperature. And I think we need to start heading a little bit west, because we are right on the eastern boundary. As weather's moving in, we don't want to be caught too far away if it does decide to close in on us. I'm just thinking which way we should go. I think we should go Battalier Road. We've pretty much exhausted the roads in the northeastern corner from Central Road. Ephraim has been on Yana Road. Mel. Hello, honey. Mel, California. There's a crested bar, but I hope it stays there. It's in that little book. That is gone. See, birds, they're fine if you just drive past, they'll stay there. But as soon as you stop and you even begin to reverse or look at them, they fly away. Mel in California was asking if there are any archaeological sites in the area. Not in this immediate area. There is history of humans using this area. Occasionally one finds broken stone tools, the odd artifact, but that's just from nomadic people moving through the area, hunter-gatherers in the past. One of the major archaeological sites is a little bit north of here, a place called Mapungubwe, M-A-P-U-N-G-U-B-W-E, Mapungubwe. And that is, Mapungubwe is one of the, it's just a very significant site in Venda, the Venda people. It was a place where gold-plated A very famous gold-plated rhino was found. I think it was a wooden rhino coated in gold, with gold plate over it, that dated back long. I mean, it's somehow connected to the big wall, this big stone structures in Zimbabwe, and a lot of that is connected to further south of us. We have other very significant archaeological sites. The place called Adam's Calendar. In fact, it's sort of the South African equivalent of Stonehenge, because of the stones that are so strategically placed with solstices and aligned with the stars of Orion and that sort of thing. So there are, but as far south as Adam's Calendar is, that's how far Mapungubwe is in the north. So in the immediate vicinity, not much. In Kruger, there are a bunch of archaeological sites in Kruger, and a friend of mine actually wrote a new guidebook, a guide to the archaeological sites. Sadly, he passed away just after the book was published. But someone who was in the safari business for well over 30 years, a chap by the name of Garth McFarlane. I remember picking up a stone one day on drive that was quite clearly a worked stone, and it had obviously been washed out, or it was on the road, so it might have been embedded in the road at one stage, and with the vehicles going it had sort of actually been brought to the surface and was lying loose. Do mosquitoes in our area carry the West Nile virus? Well, that's from Oklahoma. Was it Cheryl? Rachel. Sorry. Rachel in Oklahoma. Sometimes, it doesn't matter how many times the guys tell me your name, who send the question in. What happens is my brain starts thinking about the question and it completely forgets about who the person was. And it's not because I'm forgetting you, Rachel, it's just the way my brain functions, or rather doesn't function. Rachel, I'm not sure, I don't think so. I don't think we've had any cases of West Nile virus here in Africa at all, or South Africa at any rate. Our biggest threat with mosquitoes here is, of course, is malaria, and we get a strain of malaria, the cerebral or falciparum malaria, which is very, very bad. It can kill you in less than 48 hours if you don't get treatment. This parasite goes straight to the brain. Chagra, nice if you weren't hiding. These areas have got seeds. Jeffrey? In Tis, I think it's Austin if I'm not mistaken. Hello Jeffrey. Are there any animals here that I dislike? Other than mosquitoes of course. Are there any animals here that I dislike or feel malice towards? Is that what it was? No Jeffrey. Other than things that bite, like mosquitoes and tsetse flies. Not that I dislike them. They've got every right to be around as we have, as everything else. But if you bite me, you die. If a wasp stings me, that's fine. That's a different story because it's not doing anything other than protecting itself. It's never kill a wasp. I save wasps. I'm constantly getting wasps out of buildings because they fly in to make nests. Or rescuing them out of ponds or swimming pools. Bees too. Bees are very special. But yeah, if a mosquito is biting me, I am going to squash it if I can, if I'm quick enough. And if there's another type of biting fly that's going to bite me, I will feed it to a spider. It's just self-defense. Especially if a tiny little mosquito has the potential to kill me. I think I have a pretty strong case for self-defense. But other than that, I can't think of, no, there's nothing, absolutely nothing that I dislike. Nature to me is an absolute wonder, every little living thing. There's some things that can be irritating. Tiny little ants that get into the honey, or the Argentinian roving ants that seem to have taken over most of Africa. They're a little bit of a pain in the feet because, well, just because of their habits, they bite. Crazy ants. And those tiny little flies that hang around the buffalo when you're sitting sometimes on a hot day, sitting near buffalo, those little flies get into the corner of your eyes and up your nose, and they can be a little irritating. The one thing I suppose you could say I do despise, and that would be the humans that mistreat nature, the humans that do venture into nature and have no respect for it. I guess that doesn't count, really. There was a leopard drinking here. Hi Clancy, nice to hear from you. Clancy in Columbus, Ohio. Let's go this way. Do you have any animals that hibernate like bears? Not really, Clancy. We do have some things that are dormant in our dry season, in our winter, but of course our dry season or our winter is very mild, so there are some that might be dormant, but they will and could be active if the weather changes or if they need to. You know, for example, all the reptiles, you still see snakes and sea lizards and things moving around, as long as the conditions are optimal. The term that we use for that is estivation. Although estivation is generally a sort of a term used for animals that tend to become dormant in the summer as opposed to the winter. But no, we don't have any animals, large animals that hibernate. We don't get snow, so we don't get the conditions that require animals to burrow down and stay hidden. And all the animals that we do have in Africa need to be eating every day. Yeah. Paranoid Franklin. Really almost nothing moving around today. Looking too bad. The sky's lifted a little bit. It's not as dark as it was. I didn't get that. Are there any what? Oh, mineral deposits. Louisville, Kentucky. Marsha? Referring to kimberlite. No kimberlite here. Mineral deposits around Juma. Well, no, not really. A little bit further north from here, where I am. I mean, back home for me, there's vast deposits of mica, and then of course there's the big mine up in Guinea fowl, fleas. And Calabora is a huge open cast mine for magnetite. There are Darty Game Reserve. There are some old emerald. Kimberlite is a very specific type of ore, I guess you could call it, or geological feature that produces diamonds. We don't have that here. I guess kind of lucky there aren't any mineral deposits here, or deposits. Magnetite has expanded, and when you look at my Calabora on Google Earth, it's a giant gaping hole, and of course everything that's out of that hole, it just swallows up the felt on the sides of it. It's unbelievable. Of course there's all the trucks that carry the ore that are just destroying the roads. Still, it's the economy of the country at work. Tourism, use of wildlife, which of course the alternative is something not many of us agree with. The hunting side of things, which while it does generate huge influxes of cash in the short term, it's just not sustainable. It's just downright not right. Morning, Cindy. Cindy wants to know where the ellies are. Well, we've had a couple of tracks, Cindy. We had a couple of elephant 2 days ago. I can't answer where they are, because if I knew where they are, I'd try and find them. But they just clearly are not on Djuma at the moment. Or they might be. We just haven't covered all of Djuma. There are still parts of Djuma that we have to get to. And we can cross over to Arathusa as well for a little while. Maybe with this weather, maybe those jackal will be on the airstrip. Oops. Wow, treehouse is starting to build up with this algae. Water and get oxygen going in it. But it's not an easy question to answer. Where are the elephants? They're everywhere. There are a lot of elephants in Kruger. But we're a tiny little postage stamp size of ground in the whole of Kruger. And for the moment, there haven't been any elephant where we've been looking. There have been elephant tracks. There were elephant tracks heading away from Djuma Waterhole from last night. There were elephant tracks heading northwest yesterday. And we could come around a bend and find an elephant at any moment. See, elephants move over such vast areas that we just have to be able to be time, but it's a matter of at the right time. How many times we drive on a road, any of the roads that we've been doing all morning, and there could very well have been a leopard that came onto the road behind us, or might have just left the road before we get to a particular spot. And much like it was 2 days ago when we came here, and suddenly there was the leopard. But that was because to be able to meet up with it. Same thing with it. Well, moving around very much in the last 12 to 24 hours. There are very, very few tracks on the road itself. Marianne from, is it Arkansas, Kansas or Arkansas? Asking about browsing, giraffe browsing in the winter months, whether with the trees losing their leaves, do the giraffe have to alter their diet? It is all available. Most of what they usually eat will lose its leaves, but there are always alternatives. There are trees that stay in leaf well into the wet season, or rather to the dry season, well into winter. And then there's some things that start coming into leaf early towards although dry season. Elephant tracks here, there's fresh elephant dung, but that would have been maybe overnight. The dung beetles have already spread out that elephant dung. The huge bolus that comes out of the elephant normally retains its shape, although at this time of the year with a lot of green vegetation it's a lot wetter than it is in the dry season. But it has already been spread out and flattened by flood. But it's sometime during the night he was here, walking along the road. You can still smell him. Might not get that right, my mind was elsewhere, but Mickey, North Carolina, I think it's Asheville, North Carolina, asking about the winters, do animals migrate? There's no migration here in this part of the world, Mickey. There is migrants of the same species moving together. Here they don't accumulate, they allow the animals to accumulate. Only small family groups of wildebeest and zebra, and they're always associated with some little open patch of land somewhere. Open patch of ground rather, some grassland areas. Temperatures during the day can be very similar to summers, maybe not as hot, so we can still get 30 degrees Celsius days, with temperatures into the 80s in daytime temperatures in winter, and then it drops down to maybe the very lowest 5 degrees Celsius, which is probably low 4 something Fahrenheit. Also, I think the question earlier, there was a question about the altitude, average altitude here. It's around about 1,000 feet. We're averaging 350 meters above sea level. Change channels. See what Arethusa's got. We're not going to go too far, and I'd like to maybe go and have a look up on the airstrip at Arethusa. This kind of weather, we might see those jackal. Damage than good, very much so. There are places that operate under the guise of ecotourism, but they are, I wouldn't say damaged, but they're not contributing anything. They're detracting from it. Places where that are supposedly animal rehabilitation centers or breeding centers, but all they really do is they rely on tourism for people to come in and photograph themselves with a lion cub or something, and I'm appalled at that kind of thing, because poor lion cubs that get manhandled by children and adults alike, day in and day out, hand-reared lion, and then them later on. There are such that are just too big, with far too many vehicles in such a small place, and sometimes maybe small reserves that are self-contained, that might have too many vehicles and too many lodges. But yes, high impact tourism is exactly that. It's high impact. It eventually leads to destroying the very thing that it's there to save, the very thing that it's there to try and conserve. Missed. There's a piece of paper in the road I'm trying to get. I should have a stick that I can just poke and pick it up. It seems the lion are ordering out these days. That's a packaging label from South African Airways. Must have fallen off someone's luggage, although it's showing that it's vegetable and fruit. Anyways, maybe it fell out of the sky off of an aeroplane. Was that Deborah wanting to know if one wanted to do a safari, can you hire off? Yes, you can. Largely depends on where you want to go on safari, but yes, there are private guides. I do freelance myself. And I'm always able to accompany anybody who wants to go on safari, especially up in East Africa, since I spent a lot of time there and I know the language and the people and just to go to. And I really actually have to start working a little bit more on building a website and getting my name out there, because I don't have enough work during the year to keep me busy. I need a lot more. I'm not too fond of guiding in these areas, because even if I was to bring a group, one of the lodge vehicles, particularly because some of the guides are not that great, they're just Land Rover jockeys. And I'm sorry to say that, but our industry has become so big that there are guys that just come into the bush for a few months or a year or so just to have some fun and then go back to the city, and their hearts are not in it. They just want to be in something alternative for a while before they go and settle down with family in the city. But there are a bunch of guides. Scotty is Scott has Scotty D Safaris. I have a bunch of friends who I freelance with because they have a company that sometimes there's overflow and they'll call me in to help out. And especially for the viewers. And then of course there's On Track Safaris, which is Will's company. Can always maybe make a plan through Will if people, like as has happened in the past, I can join you try and join you if I can. But personally I'd like to be taking my own safaris. I'd like to be able to book trips for people anywhere in Africa and take groups. Take a group of 8 to 10 people. You're always going to have enough discount wherever you go that the guide and the tour leader or the group leader will be able to, their accommodation will sort of be covered by the discount you get in group booking. Big open area. This is an airstrip that is quite active with things at times. Mostly it's where all the people fly into when they're going to the different lodges. Hopefully there'll be something out here on the airstrip today. Windsock. It isn't even moving in. Oh, swallow. It's like European. Yep. Flying with us and around us, probably because of the insects that might be disturbed. Elephant! Elephant! We got to catch an elephant before the end of the drive. So cool. And he's out open, and it's, oh, this is beautiful. Patience pays off. Thank you everyone for your patience with flowers and ramblings. Hello birds, ground plovers, blacksmith, lapwings, and lesser blackwing lapwing, lesser blackwings. Oh, here's a fan. can't see the jackal, but then I've only had eyes for elephant because we've been driving most of the way up here. But I would have seen them, I'm sure, unless they were lying down in the grasses. Oh, he's just a magic Ellie, this. He started getting a little bit upset about our approach, so I just stopped because he lifted his head. We'll let him get used to us. He is in must, so, and he is going to come towards us, I think. He's a collared bull. He's one of the collared bulls. I'm trying to think who he could be. I'm not even sure if I know him. He might be. I'll need to look at my Ellie photos. Saved. He's going to come straight towards us. There's the jackal. They're running away from him. Can't smell him yet. The wind's blowing wrong. What's on his head? He's got a twig or something on his forehead. Apart from, maybe it's not collared. Maybe that's just mud on the top of the back of his head that I was thinking was a transmitter device. Yeah, it is just a clump of grass that he's thrown there. I just saw that lump. Often with the collared bulls, or collared ellies, the tracking device, the actual mechanism is right there above the shoulders. Jumbo Bwana. Yeah, I'm coming to say hello. He is an incredible elephant in full must. Now we're getting the whiff of it. I'd like to be able to turn around, but it might disturb him. Wait till he moves off first. A little slow in getting my toy out of my pocket. He's photographing me. He's supposed to be photographing.
I can't reach. I've been waiting.
Well, I can't resist. I can't resist taking a photograph. Turn around. You can see him better. I suppose I could turn around there where the plane turns around. Narratives, I know they might be interested in it. And our station's 1 Madod Glove on the airstrip. Oops. them walking down the road. Don't want to get too close behind him because he is, look at him, he's got an attitude now. Phew. It's a very strong smell. Full musk elephant is something else to be, especially the guy this size. What else he doing? To that little fan, flip fan. And I guess the jackal both ran off. Wildebeest. Yeah, a lot of sedges that he's eating, and also it's pulling out a lot. He's not really shaking off the roots. I'm thinking he's actually just going to be biting off all the roots because he's positioning the grass in his mouth that all the roots stick out to the right side here. We'll see if he's. It's funny because in the dry season they're going to be eating the roots, shaking all the sand off the roots and eating the roots, as opposed to the wet season now. And there's a lot of this is sedge. He's picking up a lot of the sedge grasses as well, positioning them in his mouth that the roots all hang out on the side, and then he's chewing on the leaves and then just biting off all the. There's not even, doesn't need to bother shaking the sand off of the roots. He's not even swallowing them. Morning, Aussie sister Lisa. Lisa is asking if I'm ever, I don't know, what's it? Is it nervous? If I'm ever affected being around elephant after having an encounter with one, but that was a long time ago. Lisa, that was 18 years ago now, 17 and a half years ago. There's a plastic water bottle behind me, but I can't get it because I can't get out of the car. Tons of elephants since then. I've spent, since 97, I think it was, back in Salou, that I had an incident with an elephant. And, well, if anything, it did bring home one vital point, and that is that one can't get complacent. And I'd never like to be able to come across that I am complacent in their company, because they are big, bulky, very strong things. There's a comb-billed duck flying around the pan. For the incident, and to a large extent after the incident that I had with Nelly, basically I was underneath an elephant for some time and she was mauling me and she gored me with her tusk. But that's another story for another day. He's making his way to, I think he might be making his way to the pond. What I'm going to do is move off this other area through the vehicle, come past so that his guests can have a view. Afshed. Kom, January. But as much as one is able to read their body language, they are still very much thinking, feeling, emotional beings. Elephant one. Yep, here we go. Turning down to... Are you going to go to the mudwalla, boyki? Please, please go left. That way. Yeah, that way. No, that way. Now he goes left. Making his way to the... Why you go in front of him like that, I don't know. Yes. Some guides just don't know how to treat these animals. Oh, he'll go to another mudwalla. Unfortunately, that vehicle sort of cut right in front of him and turned him, prevented him from going. And that's why elephants sometimes get a little bit upset with vehicles. This guy's asking for this elephant to he's actually heading, if he carries on this direction that he's going now, he's actually going to be going on to Juma at some point later this morning. Being an airstrip, we can't cross it over there. He's going on a road that's actually been closed. We could probably go around. If he's going to follow that road, we might be a little bit late as we're reaching the end of drive. So we're going to just watch him as he moves into the tree line. Again. Goodbye, Ellie. We'll see you on Juma this afternoon, maybe, if we're lucky. Straight beeline for Gary Dam. Be there in about an hour or two. Wonderful that we were able to catch something like that at the end of drive. It has been a little bit nice and pleasant with this little bit of... So he's heading up north. He's sort of heading up in a sort of northeasterly direction. There's a good chance that he's heading towards family groups. He might be in touch with them. You know, elephants vocalize over very long distances. And the fact that he is pretty much on a mission, he's been heading in one direction, could indicate that he's made contact and he's talking to a few. So thanks for joining us. My name is Mark, Brian on camera, Wild Earth. Let's see if we can find him later. Join us again this afternoon. Bye everybody. Love you lots. Bye-bye.
walked around so that he's downwind, so you can get a good whiff at us. But no.
Yeah, FO's in. The droppers, yeah.
So the big-shaded animals are brilliant to observe because look at that, you can get beautiful views like this. And you can see natural behavior. In other words, you can see them doing things the way they would have done them anyway.
Yes! Yes! Oh my goodness. How lucky are we, guys? You made the right call.
And he just made his way down to here, which he'll lie flat again. He might stay here for a bit longer now. Wow.
So that he's downwind, so you can get a good whiff at us. But no.
Yeah, FO's in. The droppers, yeah.